Okay, hope everybody's ready, because I'm certainly not. I am in some cracking back pain. Just got back from a trash collecting walk. For anybody who's watching the recording, as always, go ahead and skip probably the first 5 or 10 minutes, as that's usually when I'll actually start for real, for real. Let's get everything working here first. Turn monetization on, please. And load. Thank you. Control room. Load. Come on, YouTube. You can do it. There we go. Dismiss that. Switch over to live. Have that open and ready with stuff. Uh, Actually, I don't necessarily need to do the same kind of stuff we normally would. I'm trying to think if I'm even going to need Google Earth for this one. I don't think so. Or at least I won't necessarily need it. I might still use it anyways. Right. We are going to look stuff up when we get to certain subjects so that I can have images up that I was too lazy to actually look up beforehand. And I promise as I continue doing this each year in the future, I will try to write down everything and get stuff prepared like more in advance each time. Because this time I started readying stuff like about 2 weeks beforehand. And by 2 weeks, I mean writing stuff down in general and then actually just kind of getting like the pictures and stuff over the last like 2 days. Will we need anything from here? There goes my back again. Uh, I do not honestly know, or actually, I might as well have one of these up just for showcase for when we reference that stuff, particularly regarding the Southwest US. All right. I'm in here. I have the droid stuff, the Android stuff, the blackout stuff, uh, the drone stuff, Kessler syndrome thing, the military stuff, reception decks, desk stuff, and the VR goggles stuff. Now, let me look down this list, see what else I might still need while we wait for people. Just stop saying this. I don't have a 0 bit rate. I have 2.5 megs. It is on live chat, right? I guess there's nobody's there. Ooh, I can super chat myself. That'll be interesting. Okay. Let's. Oh yeah, the AI stuff. What did I want to? I'm not actually going to put any of their art on screen. So yeah, AI has become really popular, especially for furry art and for the What is AI future baby generator? Okay, I did not see that one before. And also, the actual top like search result is AI porn generator, of course. But thankfully that one is, thankfully that Google doesn't actually like put that one at the top if you type AI in. But so I'm just gonna do their logos. Uh, this better just be the logos. I don't want to see your cringy AI art. All right. How about your main page? Nope, you're gonna force me to look at your stuff. Actually, hold on. What was that? One of those popular ones. Mid Journey. Yeah, will you at least just be get out of my face? Okay, there. You're just a sign-in screen thing. Okay, I can use that. Ugh. And outsourcing with 2040s stocks, tankers, demographic stuff, population. How long have we been going? Actually, all right, 3 minutes left till I'm going to start for real, for real. 6, 5, but no speaking people at least. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we would also need those, but I already have those. I already have the population pyramid stuff, and actually all the collapsing birth rate things. And we can just go here for the like actual population graphs. Let's get down to here. We'll just throw Japan up as the generic usual example. So we'll have that stuff ready. Oh, they did update. They did finally update their graph. Yep. So they've now hit the point where they're shedding about 1 million people a year because their demographic pyramid is not in the best arrangement currently. Is this the most recent one? Okay, no, this is from 2021. I do have their 2023 one. I just apparently never actually relabeled it properly, but at least as of 2021, this was their setup, which is, it's not South Korea, but it's still not exactly the best. All right, so we'll have that. And all right, most of the rest of this, it looks like I can just look up on the spot when the time comes for it. All right, so almost at the point where we're going to start in like 45 seconds. So predominantly, I'm going to discuss the future that you're actually going to see, as opposed to the one or the various different futures you've been promised. I will bring those up because I also have a list of very fascinating and very absurd, very copium predictions about the future, and not from fiction this time, like last year's one. These ones are ones that have been made by like actual people from from less credible people like Elon Musk and fellow tech bros, but also people like scientists and physicists and stuff who you would normally think would be bit a bit more like realistic about things, but they're also humans and are as as prone to fallibility and delusions as anybody else is. So we'll alternate back and forth. Like we'll go with one aspect of what's actually going to be happening in the future, something you're actually going to see, and then we'll flip over to for a few minutes various quotes and predictions that you are not going to see, and hopefully you yourself will be uh, relatively well aware that you're never going to see. So it's definitely past the 10-minute point now, and yeah, there's not as many people here as well I would normally see, but that's because this is not a normal stream. Okay, so since I brought this up, we'll go into several angles in which AI is actually going to be doing stuff, and the first one that is going to come up. Actually, for example, I can show you. You see up here, you have this ad showing up. This is like, I'm not trying to shop for an apartment in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, especially not one with up to 3 bedrooms. So that's not a targeted ad, even though a lot of the sites try to insist that the advertising is based off of like algorithms that look at what you've been looking at. That is blatantly not true, and anyone who's been online for like more than 5 seconds should be well aware that that's blatantly not true. We can go to another place. For example, here we can look at X. Why is what do I have a notification from? Nobody actually like sends notifications to me. Uh, what what is this? This is just a bimbo with a blue check mark who paid Elon some extra money to like put one of her tweets as an ad. Then we could go over here and go to Lisiasha the Fox's channel, and I will watch her actual video later. But uh, like here you go. I don't know if it's advertising for whatever this cringe software is, or it's trying to advertise this laptop, but or now it's trying to advertise auto insurance. You know, I don't buy Microsoft laptops. I buy HP, and I don't own a vehicle and have never owned a vehicle. So those ads are completely unapplicable to me. Now, something that you will see, and this is not correlated to an AI art generator. I just have this up as a general AI thing. But this something this will actually lead into that I mentioned a little while ago, a few streams back, is you are probably soon enough, once they can get it locked down to a accurate enough degree, you are going to start seeing like actual targeted ads, meaning like through the through the oncoming remainder years of this decade, the 2020s, we will probably transition into a point by which you will start, for the most part, seeing the ads that are shown, whether on a website or whether before you watch a YouTube video, they will start becoming things that actually would like apply to you. And whether or not you intend to like buy the item or pay for the service or use the website or whatever, uh, whether or not you actually intend to, they will start to become things that would at least remotely be something of interest to you or something that you could, look at like your history of doing stuff and determine, yeah, that's actually something relevant. Whereas, unlike the various car insurance ads that I keep getting, despite the fact that I don't drive, have never owned a car, and am never going to, I keep getting the car insurance ads for some reason. So that is one angle through which AI is through which AI is going to like be implemented, uh, and that is going to be on the part of the advertisers, brute forcing that like sort of upon the companies, like forcing it onto say YouTube, because the advertisers, whoever they may be, will want like, they want more people to actually buy their product, and it is better for them. They will get those results more likely if ads for their stuff get put in front of people who actually can A, afford it, and B, are interested in it. Like, this overwater resort real estate website or whatever is not going to be getting, a sale off of me because I have no interest in this, and it's not like I could afford a place like that, and I wouldn't even want to. So, from the part of the companies that are like paying to put their ads on places like YouTube, uh, they will, sort of push YouTube and any other site that, has ads on it, is funded by ads. They will be the ones to push websites to implement actual, like targeted ad AI stuff to try to make sure that their ads get put in front of people who are actually likely to be interested in the thing that they are trying to advertise. And also, first, because it's one of the best games ever from back when I played video games, and also it is relevant to this. Just get the regular one, Ratchet and Clank 2. Okay, that's really small. Can I get a regularly sized one, please? Can I get a regularly sized one, please? Good enough, I guess. That'll do. Sure, whatever. So, also somewhat well, actually decently kind of correlated to the AI thing. Not immediately yet, in regards to the AI stuff, but eventually, as it gets better, as it uh, as some of the game like companies, in this case specifically referring to game companies, not just enter the entertainment industry itself. Some of the game making companies have already indicated that they would like to eventually be able to rely on, some kind of AI programs to run graphics like upscaling for like older games that they have. And that ties into the fact of something that I have said previously, in that it's already begun. You've already seen this happening, but it is going to continue into a major dominant trend that, as we keep going forward, uh, a lot of, especially video games, but also TV shows and just entertainment in general, a lot of stuff in that like media vein is going to continuously tip more and more into just being like graphics upscaling or remasters or re-releases of previous content, like the best Ratchet and Clank game, slash one of the best games ever, which is the second Ratchet and Clank game. They're going to keep leaning into this because if, in case you haven't realized, everything, whether it's movies or TV shows or video games, basically everything everybody is making now just absolutely and completely sucks. So they're constantly finding themselves like in a financial hole and just like hemorrhaging money, spending like hundreds of millions of dollars on projects that they then end up at a huge net loss off of and just bleeding money out of. So, however, they do have a reliable thing that they have gained, that lost money back from usually, which is re-releasing an old thing from like say 20 years ago, but with like modern, 4K graphics or whatever. They did that with with the computer game Diablo 2. So, you know, that is an angle they're going to keep pursuing because for one, everybody in the industry for the most part seems to be, whether video games or again movies and TV, uh, specifically in terms of like in the movies and TV angle, I'm not harping on like any of the actors, but specifically like the story makers and writers are not the best anymore. But in the gaming industry, it's really widespread across like everybody from writers to like design the like aesthetic designers and everything. So they, since everybody is just completely talentless now, they are going to just put themselves into a cycle of grabbing everything old and just pushing it back out again, but with like, like I said, upscaled graphics, and they will get fully aboard that train, especially in a number of years, whether later this decade or in the next decade, the 2030s, once they're able to like decently enough rely on AI programs to do the graphics upscaling for them. So where they can kind of just feed like the old game into a program, like massive multi-system program that will just crank it up to like 4K. Once they do already have stuff that can do that with not too much human input. However, it's not yet stuff that can do it in a way that actually makes it look, you know, uh, pleasant to look at in upscaled graphics, or that can actually like keep track of the stuff from to make sure that it does it from like every possible angle that a character might stand at on any possible like level or planet that the character might visit. That is coming eventually, and at that point, they're just going to devolve into cyclically re-releasing old stuff because that's all they really have to work with at this point. Because the new stuff is just losing them money, and both for game access and for movies and TV, a lot of a lot of it is going to just fully over like the remainder of this decade, basically, although it might still play into the next decade, it's going to almost entirely shift in terms of like their revenue stream, especially with the whole death of movie theaters thing. It's going to entirely shift over to their revenue stream just uh, being access fees, media library access fees. So they they're going to eventually start having to rely almost predominantly on just profiting from your the fee you will pay for from your subscription to whatever service to access whatever media library they grant you, and they will then once or they might not because they might be a bit too involved, but once they start replacing the politically motivated humans who decide what goes where with basically just AI systems that track what people are actually watching and paying attention to, then uh, the what new things are going to still be getting made will actually start. This is like one of the few good things AI will do is it will then start to force the like media companies to kind of only shuffle the money towards shows or film franchises that people actually want to watch because uh once it gets to the point where there's an algorithm making those decisions, the algorithm, unlike certain entertainment companies CEOs and board members, doesn't want to push for or against any particular political messages. The desire to which obviously forces them to like constantly greenlight stuff that they know is not going to appease anybody and is just going to cost the company money. So those are two additional angles in, or sorry, the that and the prior subject are angles in which AI is going to be coming into play, and in which it will actually do uh, positive things. Kind of. There, there will be a bit like less graphics designer job openings, uh, slightly probably because the more the company can offload onto an algorithm that it doesn't have to pay a salary to, then the more it's going to do that because that increases the profit margin. And civilization itself in modern day is revolves entirely around the concept of make line go up. Okay. Is there All right, we actually have people speaking now. 10 versus 11. Okay, so as I said, after each thing of after each like general subject we do, then we will get into some quotes and claims about the future. So, uh, hold on. Let's go. Container ship. Just get one of these up. Just in broad general. I do have no label underneath. That means I am clear. If you see an actual label come up underneath when you click an image like that, and it actually says like copyright, XYZ, then uh, that is when or you're not supposed to show it on stream or use it in your video, because if they actually bother to put the thing under there, that means the company that it's like the company that it was uploaded to slash with will potentially actually come after you. And by come after you, I basically just mean that the image or video clip or whatever is in YouTube's like library of stuff that it constantly scans for when it checks over your videos. Now, granted, you can cheat, as currently they have been too lazy to update said algorithm, so it still cannot reliably recognize something unless it is shown for a full 15 or more seconds in a video. That is how stupid their algorithm is, because it's essentially the same recognition algorithm they installed in, like, I think 2015 or 2016, So almost like 9 years ago, and they still haven't updated it since. But, anyways, back to the point. So, big, giant container ships, cargo vessels, and, similar vessels of similar size and weight, like oil tankers and bulk carriers. So, those in the electric vehicle industry collectively have literally been quoted as saying that within 8 years, by 2032, EV or battery powered cargo ships will be taking over the global cargo shipping industry. Battery powered cargo ships. Something that's so heavy it has to burn tons, like multiple tons of fuel per hour to move. We'll just throw some batteries on it. It'll be good. It's the same thing as electrifying a car, which is able to be moved off of like literally aerosolized puffs of gasoline going into its collection of cylinders. The same scale and feasibility as something that's literally blazing through fuel by the ton every hour. Totally something that's like legit and going to happen. Now there is an electric ship that exists already. However, it's a small ferry in Norway, and it doesn't weigh that much, and its batteries only have enough power to move it for 20 kilometers. And it on each journey it takes, it only has to move 10 kilometers. And so when it gets to the other side, though, they literally have to stop it for several hours to remove the batteries and then haul in new ones with a crane that are fully charged and plug those ones in. So, that's not a system that we're setting up because that's logistically that's that's like 5 IQ level stuff. But that is a an actual thing that some people in the EV industry are trying to claim is like going to legit be a thing that happens. And of course, there is also, this fascinating, delusional wonder piece. So this is, for anybody who doesn't know, the line. It is a thing that Saudi Arabia wants to build that will be a 200-meter wide by 200-meter tall by 75-mile long skyscraper in the desert. No mention of where they're going to get all that industrial grade sand for all that concrete from, where they're going to get all the silver for those mirrors from, or they're going to just get all the millions of miles of wiring and stuff from, and how that's all going to integrate into itself into a that large of an enclosed structure. But whatever. uh Saudi Arabia has the uh smooth-brained dictator curse, where they think just throwing money at something will make something happen. And so they are still insisting, and so are some YouTube channels. They are still insisting that this is real and is going to happen, and it's going to be done by 2030, just 6 years from now. So, for anybody who for some reason thought this was cool and wants to see this, it's not happening. And I offer no apologies about that. I'm not sorry for bursting that bubble, because that is something that deserves to not happen because it's just that stupid. All right, let me drink some water. Then I'll take my pick at what the next thing we're going to see is, or look at is, on the list of things that you actually are going to see in the future, both near and far. Most of the stuff on the list, because that's the time of the most clarity, is referring to the next 25 years or so, obviously. So, is stuff you're going to see within the rest of this decade or within the 2030s slash then 2040s. If it is like specifically not until a certain point, I will specify that. If it and especially once we when we talk about the few things that will be like post 2050, I'll also specify that. But give me a second. Actually, I just realized we will make use of Google Earth. Anybody else? Anything new? No. Okay. All right. So I've mentioned this before, and even before it started happening. However, this has already started to happen. So, in dealing with stores, whether specific stores like hardware stores like Lowe's, or whether restaurants, fast food chains, whether pharmacies, or whether grocery stores and supermarkets like Walmart, you are going to see as we continue going forward. Center myself. There we go. As we continue going forward, you have potentially already started seeing, but you will see much more of this as things continue contracting economically. You are going to continuously see further and further chain consolidation. And by that, I mean chains and like companies will begin lessening the total amount of stores and centers that they are actually operating. Now, the one where this has directly come up in my particular regard is in my mom's case, because while I get my stuff from Kroger, she gets her medications and stuff from CVS. And there were previously three CVSs around here. There was one, there was, let's see, that's there, three. So, yeah, there was one around here. There is still one down here, I believe. And there's one down here. The one up here shut down. They decided to close that one and just have these two for this general area. And the reason, uh, and by they, I don't mean CVS, I mean just in general, companies and store chains in general. The reason they are doing this already and are going to do this more so is because of cost increase and the overall, like, they are still profiting otherwise, but the overall re-increase of the profit margin that this is going to grant them, because uh, like how we are now starting mining operations on deposits of, say, copper that are only like 1%, as opposed to like 3 or 4% copper grade that was the the floor below which you did not go for starting a new mine like 50 or 60 years ago. They are still, or would still otherwise be, profiting, but the margins by which many of the companies are profiting has shrunk to a degree which they do not appreciate. So they are doing consolidation and are going to continue doing this on a further upward curve as we go through the rest of this decade, and especially in the early and mid 2030s. And then from there on, it will then look like something like an S, like an awkward S, or I guess a sinusoidal curve would be the correct term, in that then it will start curving back out towards a more of a flat line further past that. But basically, the whole angle is for each of these things, using the CVS as an example, for each building, they're for one paying bills on it, paying the building rent, or the if they had it built themselves and owned the property, then they're paying a property tax on each building. They are then also ordering, a full stock of shelves of everything in the store, not just because remember, CVS in this particular case for CVS, it's also a pharmacy, or it's also a store on top of having the pharmacy. So that also still applies to them as opposed to just applying to stores themselves. They are uh, but it would apply more to stores, obviously, because the store part is like their primary profit. The But they, have to order everything to constantly keep those shelves stocked. However, no matter how many people like use a particular store, whether it's CVS or whether it's Walmart or whether it's a hardware store like Lowe's, the the store never sells out. No one ever like literally buys everything, or no store literally sells everything. Most of the time, uh, a decent chunk of like what's on a shelf that you see at a store ends up getting like cost at some point because it goes past its expiration date or whatever, or the store just determines that there's not enough demand for it. So that, in regards to food, that's what I referred to in that particular Google Doc. And for anyone who's unaware of the Google Docs, under each of my videos, I have a lot of different Google Docs that you can go to that have like data compilations and graphs and stuff for all kinds of different subject matters. It's all free and it's all accessible constantly, 24/7. But this one in particular, what I just described is what I was referring to here as excess availability waste. Whereas in the US, for food at least, it's, decently high. It's like 40 to 50% because because of stores, regardless of whether it's food or whether it's some kind of like other product, stores, always order more than they're going to sell, or at least than they usually sell, just in case they potentially sell more, so that, they have the option there to earn more additional revenue. However, uh, if that's not actually happening, or sorry, if they're not selling like enough to begin with, then that becomes an issue. And so now they're starting to like, shut down the least earning spots. In this particular case, referencing the CVS that was up there. So they're starting to shut down like, their lesser earning locations. Uh, However, in CVS's case, at least, this will vary from company to company. They didn't like fire all of the employees or anything. They did, you know, shift those employees over to working at different CVS locations. I actually think there's one somewhere up here in Somerville too, like out there. They did like shift them over to other locations because it wasn't the employees that was like, the cost angle that made them decide this one in particular was the one to shut down. It was, the predominant cost was one, the various bills they were paying on the building, and also the fact that they had to, constantly order new inventory for, the whole building of all the different products on the shelves. However, it was obviously never really selling that much stuff. So that is going to continue driving similar decisions going forward. And as let's go over here. As we continue forward, Lowe's, is it just going to show the outside? There, that's the inside. I don't see, uh, find a decent one. Come on, people. Really? 340 by 340? Nope. Uh, that's copyright. What about the split image? Sure. We'll just have that on the side at least, so we don't blow it up and you see how bad the actual graphics of the photograph are. But another thing that is coming store-wise, and this one I have mentioned numerous times, is that they will be cutting back further and further on employees. And one of the ones that's going to get chopped is not a, or at least not anymore. They haven't usually been a specific category, but just like trimming a bit off total, the regular total number overall, because they have usually stores like Walmart or Lowe's and more have usually kept like a bit of an extra amount of people compared to what they need to run the store to always have someone, make sure there's like a few extra people mulling about who can help like someone if someone has a question or can lead someone to a specific section of the store. However, in the very immediate future, like within the next 10 years, probably, they so once we get into the 2030s, it's going to actually become like a really common thing. Uh, the You're going to be like encouraged. It's not going to be forced. Like if you want to, you can still go up to one of the employees who is in the store and like really heavily request that an actual person who's there in the store, help you. But they're really going to emphasize that they want you to use their app. And so they're going to have the system set up so that you can just use their app and it'll bring someone up from a call center that they'll have somewhere. And that person will then like answer your questions about a like specific product or and so you'll like hold up your phone camera at whatever particular item you're looking at, and obviously they'll see what that is, and they'll bring up like the specs for you if you want, or if they are hopefully knowledgeable themselves, like at least a decent number of the people in Lowe's that I have encountered over like the sparse number of times that I've been in there actually have been. They will be able to tell you about whatever it is, whether it's what you're looking for, or whether there's something else you should get, or whether there's a cheaper option. And also, you can call someone up to like help you find like what section you're looking for. And if you're looking for like a very specific item, then also they, oh, well, I would just, okay, I don't need a generic image of a just a computer screen. They will, this will be just a bit further out. Once we get, uh, a bit of the clunkiness out of the full environmental simulation stuff, they should have like a decent, and they will be able to pull up like your specific store that you're in and pull up an actual like decent simulated map of it. Once the store like has a fully integrated network that reliably actually does communicate with itself and actually like updates, the data from each individual location, each individual store, to the network about like what layout changes were made, what stupid Super Bowl advertisement pyramid they decided to stack their products in every February, so that the person in the call center will actually see a real, somewhat live updated layout of what the store looks like, so that they can direct you to a specific item. Uh, like I said, they some have tried something like that already, but it is still a bit too clunky now and constantly runs into actual like updating issues. So that degree of it is going to be just a few more years off, because they're gonna have to like shell out a bit more money to make sure they have they have it set up to where everything is like decently ubiquitously interconnected with each other. But so they're going to consolidate the whole helping thing so that they can have, say, like a few hundred or a few thousand employees in a effectively a call center slash at some point VR goggle center or whatever, uh, doing the same amount of work that they would otherwise be paying several tens of thousands of employees to be doing. And this will also come into some other stuff, uh, s- not as soon, but soon enough. The next thing I'll get into will be something that will be more beginning in the 2030s and actually picking up steam and becoming, actualized through the 2040s, because we have the stuff now, like it's just here, but it is not in any way really meant yet to be implemented in a like uh full way. All right. Still roughly 10 dead chat though. All right, let's chug some more water. Actually, first, let's go over some more ridiculous things that I've heard. And oh yeah, so everybody's the term is galaxy brain, I believe. Everybody's favorite galaxy brain, Elon Musk, is he's doing the whole Neuralink thing, which if you don't know, uh despite him, being afraid of like the government like controlling you or whatever, he's really into the whole putting a computer chip in your brain that will be like linked to, literally the internet through which any outside party could potentially do things. So he also is getting a bit out there and uh, thinks that apparently, I guess, like the enough of a majority of society will want like Neuralink brain chips by 2040. That's you know, brain chip enabled instant messages, aka basically uh, text telepathy, will be overtaking personal communications, and people will begin, leaving verbal communication behind because they're all going to speak with telepathic text messages with his Neuralink brain chip instead. So you guys are free to, obviously weigh in on that, whether you're going to get the brain chip or not. I'm, you know, yeah, I know it's kind of, it's so not tempting, but I'm going to lean towards not actually. I don't really think I'm gonna go for that. Uh, just like uh, just like Mikio Kaku, the physicist who is a bit out there with some of his stuff. Like he he legit like thinks that like later this century, people are gonna like you know, in the same way that as soon as people are old enough, they line up at the DMV to get a driver's license. As soon as they're 18 and they can sign off on it legally, people are gonna line up outside of like cybernetic clinics to get their arms and legs amputated and replace them with bionic limbs. And it might be because I'm like one of the last like remaining actual humans, since everyone else is at this point either a lizard person or a sociopath. But I don't see it, for some reason. I don't see the whole like everybody lines up for their amputation to get their bionic limbs thing. For some reason, I'm just not seeing it. And then there is, of course, this one. Right. Where's a fake inside the reactor picture? There you go. Fake inside the reactor picture. So they're still pushing the same thing. And it's the same distance again. So I might have to make that video again since it's been almost 4 years since the last one. They've been saying it again that fusion power is just 30 years away. Again, just like it has been since the 1950s. It's just 30 years away, and we're going to have fusion power plants. Although some of them cut the 30 years in half and have been saying that by just 2040, 16 years from now, actually less than 16 years now, fusion power will be going commercial, and you're going to in 2040 or through the 2040s, you're going to start seeing numerous, actual fusion power plants being built, and it's then going to quickly take over as our dominant source of energy provision. So, for one, no. For two, for those who have the capacity to think, also no. For those who need it explained, no. The Like, dude, come on. You shell out 30 billion euros per reactor, and they take like 20 years to build, plus the 5 years when they run over schedule because they always do. And then they don't really actually do that much because turns out when you do a bunch of laser blasting and super magnetroning of plasma. Turns out, forcing something up to 100 million degrees also then kind of takes a lot of your equipment into a risk zone where you then have to wait a while to have it all like safely dialed back down from. So the whole thing about having an actual like constantly running dream ring is something that's not actually technically within our grasp. Now, something that does work perfectly fine is nuclear fission. And we don't even have to deal with the waste thing anymore because we have a nuclear fission process that actually consumes the waste, called burner reactors that degrade it down at a less they produce power at a less efficient rate than regular fission reactions do. They only produce about half as much power, but uh, the like waste burner reactors consume the spent like nuclear fuel and nuclear waste, or they would if we actually built them and used them for it. They consume the nuclear waste, which will be dangerously radioactive for 20,000 years usually, and it degrades down into uh, different, some higher elements and different forms of lead, and even some of the noble gases, I think, that collectively the waste that comes out of the burner reactor is only dangerously reactive for about one single century. So, you know, we could do that and actually, like, you know, one, get more energy out of nuclear fuel, and two, deal with the waste problem by doing that. But we're obsessed with solar panels and wind turbines instead, which is going to cause enormous problems, which is one of the subjects we will actually be getting into. So, back into actual stuff that you will legitimately see in the future. Actually, first, check and ooh, 9/11. 9/11. Nope. Are you guys there? Like, you guys aren't bots, are you? Okay, so actually, speaking of bots, since we're on that subject, actually, I might have some picks I could use for this and not risk any copyright. Go to data, photography, should be in the 1001 folder. 1001 should be. Go all the way down. Okay, here we go. So we'll just show some generic store shelves. So are you eventually going to see like actual drones, actual robots in stores? Yes, but not anytime legitimately soon. This you might see like the first bits pop up in the sometime in the next decade in the 2030s, but it's not going to become like a full thing until the 2040s. For one, because of initial practicality and cost, but then for two, because the 2040s is when we tip over the slider in so many different ways into when things start getting really bad. And also, one of those angles is that the 2040s is, uh, in a lot of cases, for a lot of countries that are not already in a really bad demographic pyramid setup, that's when we will be getting to the point that most countries actually will be in a either undesirable or really bad demographic pyramid setup. So we will be having like legitimately having labor issues. So eventually, for simple things like stocking shelves, you will eventually just a little bit for like trial purposes in the next decade, probably, and then for real in the 2040s and then through 2050s and beyond, picking up. You will start to see like stalking robots, and they will predominantly be like just rolling ground bots or drones that they're not going to be like humanoid androids. So I'm sorry, everybody, but go back over here. But Arnold is not going to be stocking the shelves at your local Walmart. So I do apologize for that. That would be cool, especially if he had like the leather jacket and the sunglasses and everything. But that's not going to be the case. They're going to be basically ground roller drones. They're going and effectively, you might as well refer to it as a like roboticized shopping cart, and they'll like roll around and they'll carry they'll tow the thing behind them with the stuff on it, and everything will be inside of like the let me find an example of them. For some specific things, there will, uh, like I've said before, there will always still be human employees. The people who are legitimately doing the whole end of work and humans are going to be replaced entirely thing are delusional. But they will simply also just like kind of rearrange as much as they can to allow the workload to be passed off onto, you know, employees that don't have to be paid. Okay, was this not one where it was? I guess I don't have the thing that I thought I did. But when you go into Or actually, no, wait, I forgot. I drew it here. You wouldn't even have to do that. All right, I'm gonna get cringe and open up MS Paint. Fine, okay. Paint. Why is it this wide? What is this? Okay, so let's get this wide. So you'll have a thing. Your roller bot will have like a lifter pallet thing that it will slide under a like collection of stuff, and it will lift that stuff up with its whatever bot arm it has. It'll lift that up, and it'll have like another arm come up here where it'll have a thingy that will do some stuff. Switch this out to black so I can do that. Yeah, it'll have a. Oh man, I forgot it doesn't do that anymore. You have to do the fill in instead. So it'll have like a. Wait, why did I do that? Okay, just erase that. It'll have and it'll have like another one that comes up here. And again, this is just a very vague depiction. Yes, it's very poor and probably won't get the point across somehow. But it'll have this. It'll have something at the back, so it will pick the stuff up by sliding it under. Then turn and slide this, slide the pallet that's holding it on, uh, or the tray, I guess, onto the actual shelf that the stuff is going to go on. And with this back here, it will then slide this forward, which will then push the stuff onto the shelf. So, there are, this is most likely how the drones that they're actually going to employ are going to do it, as opposed to, again, everyone thinking they're going to be using like the NS5s from iRobot. No, that's just a bit too out of the way when simple, like, more crude Wally roller type things can easily get the job done. So those are going to be coming and start getting employed in stores and in warehouses probably first also. Uh, but that will not be like in the very immediate future. That will start in the 2030s and then pick up the pace like really in the 2040s because that's when everything starts going downhill, especially demographically. All right. What else were we going to do here? Oh, yeah, and in regards, and along kind of the same timeline, because it's not ready for it right now, not yet at least. In regards to the same timeline, starting, actually, this guy is perfect since he has, oh, I forgot to change this to a PNG, since he has the two controller things. Eventually, although he's wearing the wrong VR headset, so we also need to uh, bring up. I think this is the Apple Vision Pro thing. So eventually, uh, robots or drones slash droids, although it's mostly just going to be drones, really, uh, will take over a lot of physical stuff, especially in more dangerous environments and in warehouses. However, they are still going to be controlled by people because, for one, the companies will always want someone to be liable if something happens. And for two, machines are dumb. And for three, you kind of need, like, you do need someone to be, like, actually monitoring it, which falls back on the whole premise of machines are dumb. So we are going to progress into a point where a lot of stuff will be sort of remotely done, like a person wearing some future like VR simulator thing, not literally the Apple Vision Pro, but they'll be like wearing something like it and like uh no, not Arnold. Not get off over here. And we'll have like controllers or whatever, and we'll like control a thing, a loader or whatever, or some kind of like mechanical drone in a warehouse or in an environment from not that environment. And the other angle to this is also going to be that they're going to eventually start getting to the point where not really at home first because they're not going to necessarily trust their employees' internet, but it is going to aid a bit in the whole for like certain companies being able to have the appeal of you not having to move to a specific location because they'll instead be able to have you like do the stuff via that method, and they'll while their actual locations may be in XYZ place, they'll be able to set up like a high connectivity office or whatever, like a small setup in cities or towns where like people actually live, and so uh, people will just be able to go to those and use the whole like VR headset thing to manipulate the like drones and robotics that are actually handling stuff. And that is, like I said, along the same timelines. That's not something that's going to actually come into like commercial scale functionalization immediately. That's going to be more a thing that starts going in the 2030s and then picks up its pace decently in the 2040s instead, especially once we start getting into, again, the whole like labor shortage thing, so that they can then be able to have like one set of employees like doing different things at different locations via this like VR connection instead of having to literally have and be paying like a much larger number of employees to have physically at each individual location. So, for good or bad, that is something that is also going to be coming in the end. Time to check here. Ooh, 12. Uh, Alex is alive at least. The teenager is the one who's actually alive. Let's chug some water. Okay, so we went down two things. You know what that means. It's time for some claims again. Actually, to make it more dramatic, I should. Hold on. Let's do this. No, good. Videos. Let me go down. Excuse me. Down here. And, sure, this one. We'll go into this one. And we'll go down here, to make this dramatic or whatever. And let's, up the font size. Pretty big. 36? Is that big enough? Oh man, that's too big, actually. Or, well, I mean, I'm probably gonna have multiple lines of it anyways. We'll go down to 28. So, uh, we're gonna do some space stuff now. Some of this is from Mikio Kaku. Some of this is from Elon Musk. Some of this is from others like Jeff Bezos. Some of this is from other just like other reputable like physicists, even people that have been off and on associated with NASA. So let's see. Blah blah blah. Okay, so uh, this one is interesting. The 2070s, by the 2070s or 2080s, Mars will declare independence because there are going to apparently, apparently, in these people's view, by the 2070s or 2080s, there are going to be numerous cities on Mars. Not, numerous consistently manned, like scientific stations like we have, say, in Antarctica, uh, but there are going to be literally numerous cities on Mars. And apparently, I guess, enough people to the point that Mars will become political and declare itself an independent nation planet? Uh, question mark, question mark, question mark. So, don't ask me like what what part of non-brain these things are coming from because I don't know anymore. 2070s, 2080s, if from my angle, realistically, is probably when we might like lock ourselves in to like trying to consistently have a like permanent human presence on Mars. So my take is more like 2070s, 2080s would be the time frame you will see us like have a Antarctica style like permanently staffed scientific like post on Mars that we would cycle people in and out of. Not cities, not Mars declaring independence uh, and starting a war with mobile suits and Gundams because that's what happens in uh, one of the original Gundam series. Also, I forgot who did this one, but they're a little bit further into the future than the ridiculous Call of Duty video game claimed. But supposedly, uh, they believed that in 2075 or so, we're going to build an orbital elevator. Despite, various angles of that, like, for one, the logistics, for two, the politics, for three, honestly, the whole night sky ethical debate thing, for four, the financing, for five, the fact that no material actually exists that could function as that tether. And no, carbon nanotubes are not it. They're not magic. I'm sorry, but they don't. They're not. They're not some unobtainium wonder material that does literally whatever the plot of humanity needs it to do. They don't follow the script that you write for them. Graphene and carbon nanotubes are very particular and very special materials that can do a variety of things that are will be wonderful, potentially at least, once we are able to like completely reliably synthesize them and have them come out the way that we want them to, like in the actual molecular structure we want them to every single time we synthesize them, which is something we have not yet achieved. And those who actually work in the field of like molecular science are even the more optimistic ones are still leaning towards we're probably like 10 or 20 years out from like having a decent enough process where we can, forcibly synthesize, say, carbon nanotubes into existence out of raw carbon in the particular molecular arrangement that we want, like at least 99% of the time. But even with that, carbon nanotubes are no. That was like the one thing everyone who wants an orbital elevator was trying to latch onto. Still not gonna cut it. So no, this is not happening. And then we'll do one more space one. Then we'll get back to real stuff that's actually going to happen. So someone watched Avatar, basically, not the Last Airbender, but the stupid one with unobtainium and the blue space people. So yes, this is an actual one. Someone mistakenly thinks Avatar is real life. It's not. I know they live in some kind of like techno fetishist dream world where we can just like conjure thousands of tons of antimatter at will to fuel a interstellar vehicle, constantly like sending one back and forth from the Alpha Centauri system every 6 months or so. Uh, but yeah, by 2154, I think. But that's no, that's not how it works. That's not how reality works. So no, interstellar travel has become common in 2150 is not a thing. Uh, decent a decent enough frequency of actual like human trips in between uh Earth and Mars will likely be common. And despite the fact that there would not be a real like technical reason for us to, the fact that we just want to go places will probably by this point have seen actual like physical human visitors to at least like the Jupiter and associated moon system. And by like mid 2100s, it's most likely there will be a few places for non-astronauts to like reliably visit the moon if they wish. However, it's not going to be a family vacation like common thing for the common person. It's gonna be a thing for people who can drop cash, just like space tourism right now. All the different like companies that offer orbital flights or trips to the ISS or whatever is something for people who can drop cash. The orbital flights, I think, are only hundreds of thousands of dollars, although they're not a very like they don't occur very frequently. Trip like up to the ISS is like tens of millions at the moment, and some company did at some point delusionally think they could offer like trips to the moon and back, like surface included or whatever, for only like 100 and something million, which is not how that pricing works out. But so yeah, this one was the most hilarious to see, and is not something that's coming. So I continue crushing dreams as always, but that's your fault for having them. All right, now back to things that are actually going to happen. A lot of which is just a lot of which is just related to drones and remote communication and in some cases some futury-ish kind of stuff like security droids. Okay, since I mentioned it, I might as well go into that one since that might be one of the only like really futuristic things that I will probably actually even mention as something that's legitimately going to happen. First, I'll check chat situation. Set temperature to Alaska. Yes, of course. This is Fairbanks weather, and I have my clock down here set to Alaska time too. Like, why? Why would I? Why would I want to like have my stuff set to or associated with South Carolina? Like, just because I'm trapped here doesn't mean I want to be associated. So blah blah blah. Maybe blah 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 blah. Yeah. In terms of like actual people living there, that's not really happening. Like I said, uh, like I said, the whole 2070s 2080s thing would be a point by which I would say, that might be when we like put our foot in and try to like we do with Antarctica, have a constant like human, and by human I don't mean citizens of Mars. I mean astronauts, scientists, a constant enough human presence on the planet, which I still in the 2070s 2080s will tell you is probably just going to be one singular scientific station. But we're moving into some stuff with robotics, stuff you will actually see. So we do, as of right now, we do have like real, uh, we do have things like Atlas, which is a Boston Dynamics robot. We do have things like this. Atlas is real. There's a lot of fake CGI videos people have made of Atlas doing things, like beating people up with like robot kung fu and stuff. But there are also, the real footage things from Bostic Dynamics themselves and from fairs and like shows that they've done where they've like let people and the media and stuff in to watch him do stuff. And he's gotten uh pretty decent. He can literally do parkour and can run at decent speed and is fairly strong. He can lift, I think they said 80 pounds, and not in the same way you can lift 80 pounds, with, puffing all the air out of your lungs as you struggle and your face turns red and you try to make sure you don't break your back. He can just pick up the 80 pounds. And in one of the demonstrator things they did, uh, he picked up like a bag full of tools, which are not, things that are lightweight, and just like threw it up to a second story. So he is, just using him as an example. We can and have, begun building and at least experimenting and working with things that you would call droids. And I specifically refer to them as droids, not androids, because I'm referring to them in this regard, because This, if you've seen the movie Elysium, this is one of the areas in which you're actually going to start seeing like humanoid robots first. Is in security slash even potentially policing roles. You will start seeing things like Atlas. Uh, this not like this design, this is a fictional design, but you will start seeing things like Atlas. Not in the next few years, and probably not even in the 2030s. This is more of a 2040s and then beyond thing. Once they have a reliable enough power pack on them to where they can operate for like an hour at least without having to be like recharged or whatever. And once their full onboard computers are like decent enough to where they can maintain like full levels of like interaction and stuff with either other security or police officers or with people they're speaking to. But security and policing forces are absolutely going to want these things because I just described an atlas. Atlas is not like a full sized like 6 foot or 7 foot droid. He's only like 5 feet or something. The full ones with like maximum applied strength, they basically actually hold on. There's probably get up on the picture. Elysium. Actually, well, there we go. Elysium droid. So like here you have one of the scenes where they're like pinning someone and holding their arms together. Uh, they will absolutely want these once they're like usable, 15 plus years from now, because unlike that footage you'll see like where there's like four cops like trying to hold down one dude who's like spazzing out and going crazy and trying to like bust off and run. You will not escape the grip of a security droid, as opposed to being able to slip out of and overpower the grip of a human. The droid is your when it puts your wrists together behind your back and forces you down. You're not getting out of that grip and getting up and running away. It's not going to happen. So, uh, for the sheer effect of uh, no one's actually going to escape these things, at least escape like the physical apprehension once it's happened. They are absolutely going to want these, and also they're going to want to get out of the whole human liability thing. Although, like 70 to 80% of the security slash police work and stuff will actually still be done by humans, but generic like apprehension and just holding a person in place while, say, the officers and another security droid pursue an additional suspect is stuff that will get put onto like a droid as something to do. And also, something that will come even sooner than that is did I put them in here? I didn't skip them over, did I? Did I just put them under drone? Oh, I did. Okay. Is pursuit drones, since police cars, are limited to like where they can go, and human, police officers, and even if we were talking in the future of using droids, the humanoid droids would still have those kind of the same limitations in that they're of like physical obstacles and stuff. If there's already a degree of things in between the police and the person they're chasing, uh, some police departments, uh, I don't think any in the US have like used them in this like low altitude, like literally at only like 10 to 20 feet or almost human height level yet. But they are going to start using like I'm calling them pursuit drones. So they'll have like a NYPD or an LAPD drone, do the actual following of the person as they're running around, and essentially have the drone follow them until they get tired of running or are decently slowed down enough. And, the drone obviously will constantly be relaying the location, or someone will be watching through the camera back at the police station and constantly updating like cars around police cars in the area, like which turn the person's making, what fence they're hopping over, so that it'll be uh, they'll have a much higher the police can get a much higher reliability on like intercepting a person who's trying to run, and also just regular security and a lot of border forces also, and these have also Ukraine's been also using a lot of these to like try to follow retreating infantry to find where the like particular like trenches in the various Sorovkin lines are. So these are going to come into play. Uh, Probably this is one of the probably this is or well, sorry, my brain is starting to malfunction. This is one of the things you will probably like start seeing the most immediately, like within just the next few years. Like I said, I don't think any in the US have done so in this particular fashion yet, but I think some, I forget like which countries, but I thought I remembered hearing some countries were already using them like in this manner as what I call pursuit drones, as opposed to plenty of police departments and agencies in the US, like Border Patrol, do use drones like as an aerial surveillance thing, but no one in the US at least yet has been using them in the function of pursuit drone. But that is going to be coming into play like much sooner than the whole security droid thing, like I said. And this will lead into a number of things. I've got a list here of actually find it. Where did I put it? Oh, I forgot. No, there's not a back to that page. Yes, there is a back to that page. Don't listen to me. I'm stupid. This is going to be one of the expanding things where there's going to be sort of a ballooning job fields opening. One one of those things where there will be such a widening like opening of jobs is someone to sit at however many any particular police department or company has, because it's not just going to be pursuit drones. There are also going to be different forms of drones being used for a lot of other stuff, which I'll talk about in a moment. But uh, drone drone like monitor is going to be like a position that starts becoming common, where it'll be one person to a desk with multiple screens, and instead of the stuff this person has on the screen, they'll have like a map here that will look like one of the standard flight tracking sites, except it will just be a local area map, and it'll show the different dots or icons of where the different drones are and where they're heading and their altitude and stuff. And they'll have like one they'll have another with like the different camera feeds that they can pull up onto like say a main screen to look at what's happening. And then they'll have like another one that'll have a running checklist of stuff saying, drone 543187B, delivery 5 completed, proceeding to delivery 6. And so they'll be like constantly monitoring that. And, occasionally they'll uh, hit like a button if like a red flag comes up, like a drone for some reason just like has a malfunction and falls, then they'll hit the summoning or deployment button for like someone to go out in the Amazon drone retrieval van to go retrieve the drone before some teenagers grab it to go like scrap it for the rare earth magnets and hustle it. And also, obviously, that will be another angle that they'll be watching for is watching to make sure nobody like attacks the drones with a baseball bat to try to knock them out of the air so that they can tear them apart and like try to sell the computer parts and the rare earth magnets and stuff from inside of them. But jumping from that into the delivery drone thing, that is not going to be aerial. That is going to be like ground roller type stuff. They already were doing this as just like a trial thing. However, the actual versions they're going to use are going to be bigger than this. Uh, for the literally for the sheer fact, and I guarantee you they would probably tell you the same answer if you asked. They will be bigger versions of this and heavier, literally for just the sheer fact that this would be too easy and light for someone walking by it on the sidewalk to just pick up and run away with it. So they are going to use larger, like ground roller delivery drone vehicles just for the sake of making sure they're too heavy for someone to be able to just like pick up under their arm and run off with it. So as we roll into the future, it's not going to be a thing that gets forced on you. Like you will still be able eternally to go into the store yourself, but it is going to be a thing that becomes at first an option and then a deference or something that you are constantly being elbow nudged into like uh in the direction of both by governments and the companies themselves trying to get you to have a preference for because they will be much lighter vehicles that will thus be consuming less fuel or less electricity. So as we hit probably the 2030s, like they might continue like beginning basic trials of this through this decade, but this is probably going to be a more of a starting in the 2030s thing. They will they will get more into a position where you order things online. In this case, referring to like even your groceries or things you would buy at the store or buy at Lowe's or whatever. And the people there will like pack it and put it into a delivery vehicle, and it will have like multiple spots. Like they'll probably actually even have two on the other side, so it'll have multiple of these things. And uh, they'll once they have like orders from enough people within the same general neighborhood or the same general vicinity, then they'll like send it out, and it will go to the houses or the apartments one by one and open up each individual section for the individual person, and you'll take the stuff. And so that will also again be another thing where there'll be someone at a drone monitoring center, and they'll have like an additional thing up for that to see whether anyone's like trying to crowbar the other doors open to like jack somebody else's bag of I don't know, tomatoes or carrots or whatever those look like. And if if you have the equipment for it, something you will be able to do later is if you have the equipment for it, like if you have the better future version of Apple Vision Pro, you might be able to like put it on and like look at a presented simulation of the store and point to and like specifically select for like regards to like say fruits and vegetables and things. You might be able to actually specifically point to and select the actual like individual things that you want, as opposed to just going to like Apple and clicking the number dialer up to four apples on the remote ordering website or whatever. So that is something that is coming. the whole like delivery drone stuff. And also, actually, let's get back up here. Also, the smaller ones are going to show up uh, eventually. Again, like 2030s probably will be like the real start, and then it will decently pick up in the 2040s because that's when almost every country will start having labor problems. Uh, to help streamline work and make sure that people who are intended to be doing specific things can focus on those specific things. You'll see the smaller ones, uh, the ones that are like shown here that will not be the ones that will be used for road deliveries because too many people would just pick them up and run away with them. You will see these pop up and be employed like in workplaces, like within, say, hospitals, for example, so that doctors and nurses don't have to leave their post to go somewhere and pick up like a patient's set of paperwork or their chart history or pick up medication from the hospital pharmacy. Instead, one of the little rollers can go get it, so that the doctor or nurse or surgeon can like stay with what they're doing, like with a particular patient or with a particular like consultation group or whatever. And that's just like the primary example that came to my mind first. But there's plenty of other workplaces where these will eventually show up to do similar things. Basically, essentially, removing the role because it's not really an actual specified job anymore, but removing the role of uh, thing picker upper and runner backer or errand runner, where removing from the actual people doing work in a workplace the role or necessity of having to cease, the specific task they're supposed to be doing to go to like the other end of the building or even next door to like an adjacent building to go pick something up, go grab a new set of staples to refill the stapler and then come back and resume what they were doing, but now with, 10 to 15 minutes at least of like lost work on that. So that is where like the smaller hatch top roller drone things will come in. But they, like I said, they won't be the ones out on the streets or the sidewalk because they'll get jacked in an instant. Granted, people in workplaces will still probably try to jack some of the ones from their workplaces. Not that that will be the smartest thing, but that is something that will likely still happen to a certain degree. Let's check chat. Oh, now chat is talking somewhat. Tweakers? What the heck was a tweaker? Is that slang, or do you mean like someone who, or do you mean someone who like can do mechanical stuff? Because I mean, you'd have to overpower the droid first to be able to like mechanically tinker with it, and you're not going to overpower the droid. That's the whole point of using a droid. It's coming to Texas. Is doing drone food delivery. Yeah, they are that like stuff is starting to get like initially like trial runs like that. That's like I said, it's not like a massive like adopted commercial thing because right now they're testing for viability primarily. It's the same as with it's the same thing. They're doing that now in the uh okay. Yeah, that's what I was originally referring to. Like if you watch an episode of Cops or something like that, and you see you see like some of the dudes that are like high on meth or PCP, and it's like one cop is on each limb trying to hold the guy, but they're just like spaz outing and still like managing to almost slip away. That's part of the advantage of eventually at least having a droid with your cops who show up to a situation is that no matter how strung out a person is, they're not going to overpower the droid because that's not how physics work. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, it's the companies like trialing the drone delivery thing is it's the same as with companies that were trialing the place your order on a touchscreen at like fast food places like McDonald's that have mostly since abandoned that because uh, the for one, it just the software just busted too frequently. Like it would just break. Like so many times people would go in and like it would just freeze. Like the tablet that you were ordering on would literally just freeze and you couldn't complete the order. And so someone had to come out from the back and actually take your order physically anyways. So part of that is attributable to McDonald's being like really cheap, not just in terms of like their food prices, but also in terms of what like level of programming software they're willing to pay for. And the answer to that is whoever offers them the cheapest bargain, which is inherently going to be something that doesn't properly function. So they decided to just scrap that because if they wanted one that would actually function properly and could let them replace their employees with a tablet, they would have to actually pay a decent amount uh, of software subscription yearly and software maintenance to a software developing company that it turns out would actually be much more than keeping their $8 an hour barely above minimum wage cashier employees. Now, in a way that is actually going to see people physically replaced with a computer screen, but not replaced job wise. The people are still going to be there. Is things like reception desks and stuff at doctors' offices, at hotels, at just general businesses that have something of the sort. That's something that you will see fairly soon. Like you might start seeing that become like a spreading thing later this decade, or the better chance is it begins like decently picking up in the 2030s instead of like at a reception desk seeing the back of this computer here facing a reception person, you would see the screen yourself. It would be pointed at you and it would have like it would basically be a perpetual Zoom call, a perpetual video chat with the person wherever they're located. Because again, we are going into the whole issue of the labor shortage thing, and people, not really wanting to move, especially when you know the salary the company's offering a lot of times isn't really worth moving. Going through like the upheaval of moving for. So as their internet reliability, as if they're willing to pay for it, gets decent enough, which we got a lot of practice with during COVID, uh, companies are going to start switching over to those who cannot seem to like actually get reception or front desk staff, or at least not enough of them. Like sometimes in some places you might, in the future, once this happens, some places you might sometimes see actual staff at the front desk, versus other times it might be the computer screen turned towards you and you'll see someone on a eternal Zoom call. So they're going to start employing that a lot, so that they can, so that they can they can actually have someone there who can speak to you, answer questions, and on their end at least, will at their computer, either at home or at some local place, fill out your check-in stuff, and also like look up whatever data or information you're asking about. So. that will become a thing, and it will begin also. It will begin being part of another thing to where a lot of countries, especially in Europe, are now, in a bad demographic situation, and they do bring in a decent level of immigration, but again, particularly for Europe, it is still not really filling all of the gaps, and especially over in two yet to be demographically or already collapsing demographically collapsing nations like Japan and like Taiwan and South Korea, for example. This is the South Korean demographic pyramid, where they are just like full zero immigration of any kind, even even at times frowning upon like uh, you know South Koreans in this particular example from abroad moving back to South Korea. Uh, they this will be their sort of get out of jail free card, except it's not free, where they will be able to remote work, employ people to fill a variety of their gaps in positions like this. But like I said, the screen's turned the other way to face you. They'll be able to employ people in like a similar regard to that, while those people are still in whatever country they're from, instead of actually having to allow people to move there, uh, and or also putting people through the hassle of moving internationally. So that will become a angle for the East Asian nations and for the various European nations that are now turning a lot more anti-immigration. Like Germany just took that turn. Sweden just took that turn. Although, it would you wouldn't really be in the position that's driven you that way if your immigration had been like more US or Australia type, where it's like actual immigration. It's people moving to the country, a lot of times with families. That's actually one of the ways that, Norway, despite having, uh, relatively open migration, is not in the Sweden situation. Is if you do immigration as opposed to migration, which is what Europe did through the 2010s, of basically just you know essentially trying to import an entire population. In Europe's case, it was millions of people fleeing the civil war in Syria, because Europe essentially, or European leaders at least, sorry, European politicians essentially looked at the displaced, impoverished, just escaped death population of Syria as a labor market commodity that they could effectively purchase, which is what they did, and it's not really going the way they wanted, and now they're facing a lot of blowback over that. So now a lot of them are turning anti-immigration, and again, that trend is occurring predominantly in countries that didn't actually do like immigration. They did, mass population import. So this whole angle will sort of act as a alternative slash a get out of jail free card, at least for jobs again like reception desks, jobs where you do not physically have to have a person like actually at that place. And also, actually, this that then also applies to the whole VR headset operating, operating like warehouse vehicle equipment thing as well. And also, that will obviously, I didn't get a courtroom image up, but I'm too lazy to look it up now. But that will lead into a decent number of like international disputes and ICC things where they'll or no wait ICC is International Criminal Court. I forgot what the regular like just one that settles disputes is. But that will lead to a decent number of disputes between countries over. I'm assuming you guys are smart enough to probably guess, you know, who gets to tax that person's income, the most because they're physically in country A, but they're working, via the internet, via a eternal Zoom call or via a VR headset controlling some warehouse equipment. The work they're doing is being done in country B. So, both countries are going to want a cut of that person's income. They're both going to want some bit of income tax off that. But who gets to get the bigger tax cut out of it? So that's there's going to be quite a number of disputes over that that are going to come up and are going to leave those employees kind of screwed in the middle of said thing, like a kid in the middle of like divorcing parents, because the person like say a I don't know because this particular example actually got mentioned in something a nurse from slash in Ghana teleworking as the like reception nurse at a doctor's office in like the UK or something. Uh, you know, she just wants to do her job as a reception desk nurse, but both the UK government and the Ghanaian government are both going to be like sticking their hands, into her purse, like digging for as much money as they can. Which the whole digging for as much money as they can thing also then ties into the next aspect of the future that is already noticeable if you're in the right places in the right countries, but will become drastically noticeable everywhere as we go through the next several decades, and then especially once we pass into the 2040s and then beyond past 2050. But at the moment, I need to check chat. Chat died. Okay, never mind. Okay, flip this back over for some more claims. So, for some more interesting claims. So this one really hasn't gone away. Uh, the one that pins down a specific year keeps pinning down like 2062, but I'll simplify it to 2060s, I guess. Uh, Nano fabricators, and I'll add an additional just like Star Trek. So legit, I've seen this come up multiple times about people thinking that like by the later portion of mid-century, we are literally going to have like fabricators, just like Star Trek, that will just y- pour powder into, and it will just materialize anything. Uh, I guess it's even going to change, different actual elements into other elements because this is Full Metal Alchemist now. So and the way they actually described it was particularly disturbing because this is the imagery they chose. This is the imagery they chose to describe this with. Okay, this is not me. They said in the future, in the 2060s and 70s, instead of getting dressed in the morning by putting on clothes, you won't have to have so much space occupied by drawers and closets where and you won't have to do like laundry and stuff anymore. Instead, you'll stand on a pad, you'll select your outfit, and then nanoparticles will climb up your body and assemble themselves into whatever outfit you picked for the day. So you're going to stand on a pile of what might as well be magnetically controlled ants and have them crawl up your body and assemble themselves into an outfit around you. This is someone's fetish. Okay, this isn't real. This is someone having a fetish. Okay, and how how the no explanation ever for like how these things will supposedly work. Like, what is this like? What is this Marvel techno magic, like literal techno magic sorcery that somehow, like on an individual basis, will control and precisely magnetically slash laser in some cases manipulate individual atoms and molecules to go in like specific places and do specific things like on this individual level. Just that's not how it works. I mean, you can't just like you're just throwing magnetic fields and lasers out there. So first off, one of those things interacts with the other. Second off, uh, the the two things, like if you have multiple of them, they interact and interfere with themselves. And also, you when you apply for we'll just use the stupid magnetic field thing. When you apply like a magnetic field to this magic powder, the powder will like move along the lines of the field. The magnetic field isn't some like telekinetic sorcery techno magic that makes atoms like go where you want them to, like exactly when and how you want them to. That's not what physics is. That's not what reality is. Like, I'm sorry, but 3D printers, having like powderized plastic and then having a machine inject some glue into it to glue it together into like the shape of, I don't know, Optimus Prime or whatever. That's the closest you're ever gonna get to a Star Trek nano fabricator. Is the boxes we have now that inject some glue into a basically a sandbox full of white plastic. Let's see what other ones do we have here? Oh, okay. Well, since we mentioned health quite a bit and healthcare stuff, oops, no, 10-ish. All right. Again, this is me adding this additional quote, though. But for anyone who's seen Elysium, so this I've seen this one as well in documentaries and stuff about like 2100. Apparently, some people are really buying into this thing that we're going to have the healing pods from Elysium. Uh, yeah, I guess health machine. Unless that's a real, is that a real company that's also okay, no, it is the actual Elysium thing. That is way too small. Can we get a larger one? that is in very poor graphics. Fine. Elysium movie health machine. Still the exact same thing. Is this one better? No. Is this one better? No. Yeah, a little bit. What about this one? No. Why are all of these images trash? Okay, well, sorry, all the images are apparently trash, but so in Elysium, for anyone who hasn't seen it, we apparently have again space techno magic that we you get in this pod thing, and this big arm rotates around you and it shines like a green light in your face, and you just are healed and cured of anything and everything because techno magic. But there are people like legitimately pushing that that's going to be a thing, or buying into the presumption that that's going to be a thing. In fact, actually, some of them claim even further, or even sooner. Like there was not for the health pod specifically, but for effectively what they can do. There was like a tech futurist article from some institute in India or whatever that said like by 2050 humans humans will be truly challenging death. And I'm like, challenging death. That is that is a way to phrase that particular delusion, but you do you. So yeah, Elysium health pods that somehow space wizardry insecure anything and everything by flashing a green light on you because reasons. No chat. Okay. What do we move on to next? Oh, yeah. How could I forget about that one? That one's one of my favorite upcoming things. So, uh, before we go into some of the other stuff, we have to go to the thing I forgot. So, the one of the things we will be dealing with is called Kessler syndrome, which full Kessler syndrome is where you have so many objects in orbit that eventually you start getting repeated collisions, whether with new objects or whether between old objects. And the cascade of debris eventually becomes so dense that there's so much like small scale and even micro debris that it becomes, at the very least, extremely difficult to get stuff up into orbit and even out of orbit unharmed. Now you can, like, if you eventually had a super dense micro debris Kessler field, you could still like get stuff up and get stuff out as well. However, it would become a lot more tedious and a lot more expensive because every payload fairing, I think, is the name of the big capsule that usually contains the capsule or contains a satellite, would have to become much denser, which means it's heavier, which means it's going to take a lot more to get it off the ground, which also then means it's going to have more corrective stuff to do. And also, you would then be constantly like recalculating and correcting a bunch of orbits of satellites and whatever you're launching up there to try to avoid like the worst portions of the debris. This is not a simulated Kessler field. This is literally what Earth already has around it. But yeah, we're heading for Kessler syndrome. And Galaxy Brain Elon Musk is the one who's actually going to send us there because he's the one who, is bragging about how he's going to have like 40,000 bajillion Starlink satellites in orbit by just like 2030. and he's currently like pumping up dozens every month at least. So we're actually heading in that direction. So this is not something I could like call for certain, but I would probably say next decade, 2030s, you're going to is when we're going to begin seeing like the first several like frequent collisions with either decayed stuff or debris that came off of stuff in the past, but we can't really track anymore because we didn't have a way to track its trajectory initially way back when, so we don't even know where it is now. So I'm pinning it down as next decade, 2030s, we start seeing like a mildly problematic number of debris collisions, but not to a encapsulating or crippling manner, unless SpaceX's or Starlink's supposed competitors actually come to fruition and start also throwing up 40,000 of their own satellite internet units up there, then I'll have to adjust those calculations. But in terms of actually doing stuff in space, what you will see regarding the schedule is later this decade, probably 2028 or 2029, is when you will see like the actual Artemis human return to the moon, as opposed to the originally scheduled 2026. Next year is probably going to be the initial manned Artemis craft flight that will only be going like in a circumlunar orbit and then returning. It won't be with a lander. It won't be going down to the moon. That was originally supposed to be this year, but that has been at least most likely postponed into next year. So the actual human return to the moon physically is probably going to be more 2028 or 2029. And sorry to disappoint Elon, but oh, that's actually Earth. I just assumed it was Mars because it was red. Oh no, that's Mars. Okay. So sorry to disappoint Elon, and you can really tell, kind of telegraphing how he thinks about his underlings here. But you can sorry to disappoint, but the whole human presence, human stepping foot on Mars thing is not coming in the 2030s. Uh, Chance is still fair enough that it will be 2040s, but it's probably going to be more mid or later 2040s. And it is because uh, it is because we have effectively realized that. Hold on. Is it going to graphics clear? There we go. We've effectively realized, and NASA has now like shifted over into redirecting funding towards contracting for prototypes and experimentation with them. We've effectively realized that the whole uh, nuclear rocket engine is kind of the only viable way we're going to do this, because regular chemical propulsion, where you don't have much staying power, much corrective power, you really have to rely on circular, like properly circular orbital insertion. So you would have between 6 and 8 months, you would have a 6 to 8 month trip there and 6 to 8 month trip back, plus however long you want to spend on the surface. And we've determined psychologically that is just too much of a deep field risk. So we are, this hasn't been like publicly stated, but it is effectively clear at this point that we're going to wait on a nuclear engine. Because with the nuclear engine, that is much more powerful, and you can go about 4 to 5 times the speed of our generic propulsion now, which means instead of having to do a full waiting circle, you can do more of a tangential line to Mars, or if this were delivering an unmanned vehicle then to any other planet you want, you can do more of a tangential line, even though that would skip past the planet essentially, because you have so much raw power that you can brute force, you can flip and fire in the other direction once you get close and brute force yourself into an orbital insertion once you're basically at the destination. And being able to do that uh, has it so we could effectively make the trip there and back as long as we do it at the right times with the right alignment and arrangement of Earth and Mars. We could effectively make the trip there and back in each direction probably something like 2 months instead of 6 or as high as 8 months, and potentially less, even depending on the particular alignment that we're able to make the journey during. So that would also then obviously allow for more time on Mars, uh, but then also, it drastically reduces the whole psychological damage risk thing, which is the part that NASA and the collective space agencies of the world are most concerned with the Mars mission, because it's actually getting people like there physically and getting the equipment and stuff there physically and back is not actually as big of a technical issue. It is a huge expense issue. However, the primary obstacle that is like a holdback issue is really the whole psychological aspect of it. So we're gonna be waiting for a bit. So that's gonna be more 2040s, probably second half of 2040s thing. And then, like I said, an actual like regularly manned science post on Mars is what would be like a 2080s thing, as opposed to the Elon Musk dream quote of, in 2080, Mars declares independence because there are cities on Mars by that point, apparently. Okay, so then we will go into the also the other aspect of the future that you will be seeing. Who is this? This is okay. That was the world in 2022. So you can effectively see it's flattened off for the most part. It's almost a straight up and down line from there on in. It's a bit more skewed out on the male side because people, usually want to opt for a male child. But this is the whole world. This is not one individual single country. So, as we roll through the next couple decades, you will see a majority of countries either enter population decline or level out into a population plateau. Like, for instance, that's what's going to happen to Vietnam, at least at first. That's what's going to happen to France, at least as long as if their numbers remain relatively as what they are, immigration wise, then France is going to enter into a plateau, similar to the UK, and the US will plateau out population wise a bit later in the 2050s or 2060s. although things might speed up a bit, and that might happen in the very late 2040s. But the world as a whole, I think this was the 2023 one, so basically the same, but it is slightly regionally divided. But the world as a whole, where'd I put the projections thing? Hold on. I need to find. Okay, it's not there, so it must be out here. Out here? Is this it? Ah, okay, this is it. So, uh, the actual population curve or arc you're going to see is something between this bottom blue one and this micro dotted red one right here, in that the global population is not going to be peaking, in the 2060s or 2070s. It's going to be peaking in the 2040s or 2050s at somewhere around probably 9.5 billion. The rough range obviously is between 9.3 and 9.7. Although with the way certain things are looking, it might be more like between 9.3 and 9.6. And then instead of, this is the most commonly projected UN thing, instead of plateauing and gradually arcing like this, it is going to actually go down into a legit curve. And uh, so it is going to be something closer to this, but this one, this projection, the lower limit peaks at 9, whereas the actual peak is going to be more, uh, probably like a bit, where would 9.5 be? So it's more going to peak like up here and then curve out and get a bit faster. It will end up by 2100, unless there's various things that change. Uh, you know, Demographics could vastly alter. Fertility rate could suddenly jump back up to 3, for all I know. Yellowstone could erupt, so we could get struck by an asteroid. But this is the blue one does end up in like the same area that global population will most likely end up in by the end of the century, which is back down between 6 and 7 billion or so. And at present, the outlook, I believe, is using the actual like latest TFR rates. The outlook is that almost every country will be below replacement level by 2040, uh, with only a few stragglers like Somalia and Niger, for example, still being above that. But even those two will likely fall below replacement level by 2045. And so you will see, hold on, right, I'm not gonna be able to look up those images because I don't remember what I Googled for them. But so if you're alive throughout the coming decades, you will gradually, and again, this also depends on whether you are in the like correct region or correct city within a country, because the population decrease does not like happen on some even distribution across like every town in a nation. But you will begin to notice things and the dip, and especially depending on what country you're in, you will actually start to notice a growing absence of children. Especially, this is already a very noticeable thing in China, South Korea, and Japan. It's going to be becoming a thing in Europe. Some countries in Europe, it is already like decently noticeable. Not in others yet. Here in the U.S., it's gonna be a while at least, especially because especially because we're still up at like 1.7. Like right now, or just today, for example, when I went out walking around to pick up all the trash that all the rednecks throw on the side of the road, there, you know, I know like which like houses in the neighborhood as I'm like on my way out. I know which ones like have children because I've seen I've seen different groups of kids playing sometimes after school, sometimes during the summer. Some of them polite, some of them not. Some of them leave their juice boxes thrown all over the place that I then have to pick up later. But like there's a what I would consider a normal amount of kids around in the US still. Like comparable to like what I remember uh from when I was growing up as a kid, like on Cape Cod. Uh the like rough the rough ratio I can remember of like how many other kids I knew were like in the general neighborhood that I grew up in before my parents moved me to South Carolina. Uh, it's still roughly close to that. So the U.S. is going to be one of the places where you begin seeing that last. Uh, but, or at least among the places where the people who comment on my channel are from. The people who comment on my channel now, I'm sure eventually over time I'll start getting like more commenters from uh, not just the US, Europe, and Australia. And New Zealand. Sorry, forgot about New Zealand, but you guys effectively don't exist. Let's check chat. Chat is dead. Oh, chat's Omega dead. That's probably when I started talking about demographics. So that's what's going to kill everybody, I guess. I don't need the AI thing anymore. Okay, so another tech aspect to get into, since this one has been of interest to a lot of people, is actual androids, because you'll find a lot of places, a lot of sites make claims about them, about how supposedly close they are, and about how soon you can have like a fully human android significant other. But that's not really happening because these are what we have for androids now. And if you don't know what Uncanny Valley is, this is Uncanny Valley. And this is just on appearance, okay? This isn't you watching the thing like actually try to make facial expressions and movements. If you watch it like try to do that, the creep factor goes beyond your comprehension. And here's another example. This is one of the ones they put on like they put at like one of the reception desks at the company that's like trying to develop them. You can literally see like in the eye sockets there, like where it's like polyurethane mask or whatever pulled over a robotic skull. So they're not really that close. There were some fakes going around claiming this chick was an android, was a like a real legit lifelike android. Just so you don't know, and you can look up the debunked for it if you want. This is a human. That this is an actor who was at a like thing where they were showing stuff from Detroit Become Human, and you can kind of tell because she's literally dressed up like a character from Detroit Become Human. She has the blue like ring chip thing and everything. So, no, you're not like only a few years away from getting Bishop from Aliens to do the knife trick, or from having Arnold riding around on a motorcycle, uh, shotgunning everybody he sees, I guess, or having monotone Keanu Reeves because not because of his role of his the role he played in The Day the Earth Stood Still, but just because Keanu Reeves is obviously some kind of android because he's insane and invincible, or from one of my favorite shows, Gundam 00, Tieria Arde, uh, threatening to beat the crap out of my my main boy Soran, one of the only few characters I can like truly identify with on a moral basis because he effectively has the same outlook as me of like absolute all else for others in every possible way, and remove all those who would enact violence upon the world in any way from existence. The difference between him and I, unfortunately, is all I can really do is pick up trash, whereas he has a Gundam. So, I don't have a Gundam, so I can't stop the various, like genocides and stuff that are currently ongoing in the present real world. But that's Tyria about to beat up Soren, or threatening to beat up Soren. He's really angry because Soren, who is a human, was acting too human. And then Tieria in that episode, like, had an existential moment because he realized that he was actually acting. He himself was actually acting like too much like a human by having a rage explosion at the way a human was acting. So no T areas having existential like philosophic reflection moments. That's not coming for a while. Both because of like the level of AI and also the whole like having an android actually look legit like a human and be able to move like one. That is a decent ways off. Like the first, and also being able to walk around autonomously because that they're going to have a decent battery life length for that. So the first time you might see something that gets close to that, like for at least a demonstrator, is not going to be until the 2040s. 2050s, you might start seeing like it really breaking through in that we have androids that legit can act like people. And then from there on, especially like hitting 2060s or 2070s, is when it might become an actual, like, truly legit thing. Like, for instance, this is what we got now for, androids and attempting like facial expressions and stuff. And look, even the androids are scared of the other androids right now. Look at this! Look at this poor android dude freaking out back there at these facial expressions. Like, you got to feel sorry for this bro back there. So that's not becoming a thing anytime soon. I regret to inform you, or actually, technically, I don't regret to inform you. Check chat. Oh yeah, chat is mega dead. Actually, the stream itself is mega dead, but that's on me. Then, an additional thing you will see, not a tech-wise thing, but just a thing, a trend, is rapidly depopulating countries or economically collapsed countries, which is where Argentina is going to come in, and a few others, will to turn in order to turn to an additional revenue stream for their increased cost from their super aging populations, and also because of the countries on the receiving end, you know, as especially the 2040 plus global downturn situation rolls in, will not be in a position to afford to really build a lot of like power plants and power infrastructure of their own. You're really going to see the tide turning into a lot of depopulating, especially the rapidly depopulating ones, and or economically collapsed countries turning to mass electricity export, since they, for like especially in the case of Europe, will have had a whole bunch of all the previous generational power generation capacity that they built back when they had both much higher demand levels, or when they had much higher demand levels from both just being before the energy efficiency era began in the 2000s, and also when they still had growing larger and younger populations. So uh, the you're going to eventually see a pattern pop up of massive like electricity export as an additional revenue stream, and also kind of a cheaper alternative for countries like, in this case, we'll say Bolivia, as an alternative to having to come up with the finances that they will not have to like fully build out like a modern power grid and enough power generation capacity of their own. So you'll have, the East Asian nations entering into that, most of Europe, and especially Russia, with the large power generation capacity they have and the uh, collapse they're coming up on population wise. Argentina, because of their economic repeated collapse and stagnation. Chile for both, and Uruguay because they already do actually. They export power to Argentina and Brazil because they have too much power generation already from hydro and wind, because their population is already in and of itself just too small. Then the energy efficiency stuff has been happening, and their population is going to be capping out a lot sooner than was initially expected. And then you're going to have the Persian, or the richer Persian Gulf nations, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE, who are going to have this very large electrical generation capacity, but they're no longer going to be having the demand for it within a few decades, because they have all made it pretty clear they're going to send their like imported, basically essentially slave labor workforces back to Pakistan and Bangladesh, and also uh, a lot of industry that went there, that like set up stuff there for like the cheap deals that they were given, is going to eventually be like relocating home, relocating wherever they're originally from. So they're going to be a part of that as well. That will indeed be a trend that will be seen. Oh, and also you are we're going to enter into, starting towards the later portion or end of this decade, with the first guaranteed one being Bougainville, the island of Bougainville gaining its independence. We are going to enter into something we haven't seen for a while, which is a uh, period, and it will be a quick one. And by quick, I mean just a couple decades. So probably like the very end of the 2020s and then through the 2030s and 40s. We will be seeing a period of uh, fair amount of map changes, which is something that we have not seen a large scale of for a while. And again, not all of these are things that I'm saying are locked in. And uh, things could also break up a different way. But like, you got the whole Catalona stuff, where Spain keeps trying to make it more and more inevitable by every time they even mention it. Spain wants to respond by like police intimidation, bullying people away from even voting about it. You have the potential of Scottish independence stuff. You have the whole slew of things that are going to be breaking out in the Middle East here, especially between Turkey and Iran, that's going to have a lot of things fall apart. Have Azerbaijan swallowing the Azeri part of Iran, potentially an actual final realization of a Kurdistan. Balochistan has made it pretty clear that they're going to materialize eventually and break away. You have the shattering of Russia over the course of the late part of this decade slash early 2030s, which is, again, like I said before, not going to look like the giant jigsaw puzzle that everyone keeps portraying on Twitter. There's going to be, at least for the few guarantees, there's going to be Dagestan, Chechnya, and Kalmykia, and then Bashkiri and Tatarstan, and then fair chance of kind of just a split down the middle, but not necessarily a guarantee. And then there's the inevitable implosion and after decay after China tries the whole Taiwan stuff, which is predominantly the main result is just going to be Tibet and Hong Kong. But there's also going to be a fair enough chance of Uyghur and Macau also deciding to go its own way. And people usually like draw this huge expanded Mongolia. They just uh, recolor in the province called Inner Mongolia into part of being Mongolia. But uh, out of realism and out of likely a desire to like not try to push things too far, uh, Mongolia would only likely like even accept the parts that actually are like Mongolian, which are a few bits over here. Then, yeah, eventually a reunified Korea is just effectively making itself more and more inevitable because the Kim dynasty keeps making itself less and less continuable. And also, Kim seems to be shifting himself towards some war goals, which won't end in North Korea's favor. And when it doesn't end in North Korea's favor, and the propaganda cult has to shatter internally, the outcome of that's going to be bad, which is going to have to end in outside forces going in to make sure it doesn't get obscenely bad and all the 25 million people don't starve to death. And eventually is going to have to recoalesce into something. Bougainville is already gaining its independence. Like Papua New Guinea, like actually agreed to them breaking away. They both signed the deal for that, and they are undergoing the severance process right now, with the finalized date of the declaration and then proceeding UN acceptance, most likely being, I believe, summer of 2027. Then there's the likely eventual pressuring of Indonesia into letting go of West Papua, because even their closest friends are starting to not like the whole repression stuff they're doing over there. And also, Indonesia is going to eventually, especially after the 2040 downturn, find itself in less and less of a position to be throwing money at suppressing the population in West Papua. Then there's the fracturing of Myanmar, which is on its way. Once the junta loses the civil war, which they're in the process of losing, this is effectively inevitable. These are not, don't take these as like the literal official ethnic group borders. They're just the best amalgamation I could draw on a quick MS Paint map. So You're going to get Sean. You're going to get Sean, Kachin, I think, Saigon, and Rakhine, and then this will be Myanmar, the internal valley and the little arm that goes down. Mali is kind of effectively doomed into splitting at this point, into Mali and Tuareg. Darfur is kind of inevitably going. Ethiopia has effectively sealed its fate into splintering at some point, because the, you know, asks for some greater autonomy. The government of Ethiopia responded to those requests by brutally, massacring people and starving millions of people to death. So when that's your response to people asking even for just like a little bit of additional autonomy, you have literally just sealed the deal that they're just going to break away eventually. So you're going to get shrunken Ethiopia, and then Tigray, Tigray, Afar, Amara, and potentially some of the Somali portions might join in with Somalia itself, but we'll see. Nigeria, not as likely as anything else, but there is a chance it might fracture, depending on how the next 10 to 15 years go internally. In which case, you would probably see a three-way split, with Biafra becoming independent again, like it was in the 60s and 70s, I believe, and then to a larger northern chunk and a smaller southern chunk. And then also, eventually, Cameroon's going to run out of money to be able to keep suppressing Amazonia. And there might be some other things that will come along, but those are just the primary immediate ones. And then, as we're continuing down uh, the preceding road of the next 2.5 or 3 decades, something I'm too lazy to bring up a picture of, but that you are going to see slash are already seeing a return to, something that was actually the societal norm until the 1950s or 60s, until the post World War II era. Something that I think I actually mentioned in that demographic transition essay, where you're going to see a financially forced, essentially, return to multi generational housing, in that you're going to see a return to people will live like with their family slash like with their parents effectively indefinitely, out of financial necessity, and uh, out of eventually that returning to being, normal. And people, for people who don't, you're going to see a, further, a further spiraling into a like significantly multi-person apartment, as opposed to like a single person owning an apartment or a single couple living in an apartment. You're The predominant thing is going to eventually, actually, at this rate, quickly become, 4+ people per apartment, splitting it. And by four people, I don't mean a family living in an apartment. I mean like individual adults in an apartment, which is also going to lead to new like building goals, as when new apartments and or housing units are built, uh, you will eventually, because of that aspect, start to see soundproofing like advertised as one of the selling points. With whatever cringy, probably AI generated commercials they come up with, having AI resurrected Billy Mays yelling at you about how going to be living with a bunch of going to be living with six other people. Might as well make sure the sound can't come between the walls. So that's going to be a thing that's going to pop up, and also empty, depleted neigh- uh, neighborhoods are going to become a more common sight. More common than just Detroit because of the whole demographic collapse and population declines. Uh, you are eventually you're eventually going to start seeing a lot more like abandoned neighborhood stuff over the 2030s, and then especially into the 2040s and 50s is where it's going to like become prominent as what few people like still live in very unpopulated neighborhoods or apartment complexes will find themselves forced to move elsewhere because the money that that particular area or that particular apartment complex is getting from those few people still living there and paying rent or paying mortgage is not enough to like maintain the utilities and services of the building. So that trend will actually further itself. It will compound on itself and continue to force people out. So you will eventually start seeing a buildup of abandoned neighborhoods and abandoned complexes and stuff. And nope, chat never resurrected. And it really was the population slash demographic thing that sent everybody away. I guess everybody was just into space tech stuff. All right, I've been going for almost 3 hours, which means I'm probably going to stop soon, despite the fact that I do have more stuff on these lists. But I'm not actually really good at condensing, which is why I'm not a proper streamer or not a true professional. So that's just an issue you're going to have to deal with coming to my stuff. So I'm probably gonna call it within the next like minute or two, unless anybody asks anything or says anything specific. So I'll wait for the usual chat delay, but then I'm going to head out and eat some stuff. Eat some of the German chocolate I got today with the $100 I got paid for watching the neighbor's dogs because my parents' neighbor Donnie is a like precision truck driver, not like regular 18 wheelers. He does like really specific trucking things. He does the kind of stuff where uh they drive the trucks that are carrying like power plant turbines to a power plant and stuff like that. So he gets paid a decent amount, and thus he pays me a decent amount to take care of his dogs when he's away on like a fishing trip for a few days. Right. I'm assuming there's nothing from anybody, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut out here. Almost 2 hours, anyways. All right, so should potentially be a video up tomorrow, and then uh, one or two more this week after that. Since I'm not running on a sleep deficit from constantly running over to his house and watching the dogs anymore. So I will see you guys around next time.